says version, see how this says version 2.1.112? Yesterday morning when I woke up, it was 111. And Opus 4.7 was not available in 111. There was everyone was saying, how do I get it going? How do I get it going inside Reddit? And people said, oh, you just do model Claude Opus 4.7. I did that, hit enter, and all of a sudden, every time I ran a prompt, it chewed up, 4 to 5% of my context window.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. And the model was super stupid. And it was like, oh my God, what have they done? Turns out that running this command installs Claude Opus 4.0. And Claude Opus 4.0 by default has a 200,000 token limit and not a million. And so I had done context engineering or management to, like, I told you guys about this a couple weeks ago, I think. I actively manage that to get rid of skills, get rid of all kinds of stuff so that when my session starts, I'm not passing back and forth 100,000 tokens every time, right? And so, oh, and that was the other thing. When I started the session, watch what happens here. I'm going to hit high. I'm just going to say hi and watch how much I have back. I've got 96%. I only have 4% used, which is really good. And when I did that the first time after installing that Claude 4.7, it said 75%. And I was like, what the?
You can just do /model, right? And then it gives you all the models and you can choose from one and then you can do
Yes,
it all super easily.
but
I
it
think that
doesn't
was
show you
just
4.7 until you update to 112.
that was a one-time thing though. It's like once you
Yeah, you
activate
can
it,
also,
it has to do like one time to have a large context window to take everything in, and then it doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
repeat.
So my point is that you have to manually do stuff in order to make all of those easy things happen. And those manually doing stuff was not possible until they released 112. And I didn't know that I needed that and yada yada. So all these people are just like ripping on 4.7 all day, but they must have all done the same thing I did, like in terms of installing the model. Anyway,
so I just exited and
yeah,
then I came back in,
yeah,
like resume, and then 4.7 was available.
yeah.
But I was like, I guess half an hour after it was released, I want to say. But then I think it also brings up something like it can be useful to just wait a day because there's probably going to be like, I don't know, 37 different Claude Code new releases after the model drops because they find out all these bugs and instantly fix them because it really goes that fast. Like you don't have to wait very long in clock time, but actually loads of stuff happens in the meantime. Like 4.6 was good enough for you yesterday, then probably it's also good enough for you today, really. There's also, I don't know if you noticed, but 4.6, at least for me, got considerably worse like a week ago or so. And there were lots of complaints on various social media platforms that it got a lot worse. And then magically a week later, 4.7 dropped and it was much better than the 4.6 that had got much worse. So I'm not saying it's just a renamed 4.6, although it might just be a renamed 4.6 because it's got lots of other functionality. But that's also a familiar kind of thing.
It's pretty interesting when they do a new release, they usually have a chart comparing bench stuff or whatever those scores are. And the one thing that stood out to me like crazy is that the cyber capabilities were less than 4.6, but everything else was better. So they intentionally turned the knob down on its ability to either find weaknesses or fix bugs or whatever for cyber issues. I thought that
One
was
of the hypotheses was that this was a 4.7 was a distilled mythos. So they used their new model, who's supposed to be all singing, all dancing, although they would say that, wouldn't they? And then they ran that on lots of hard problems from Sweetbench, and then used that to distill using Opus 4.6. So they did some kind of mid-training or post-training, and then
No, Noah, like how have you incorporated the like harness framework?
good question. In this particular repo that we're in, I think I'm using Claude Code Project Manager. I've actually, and I think we should probably spend a couple minutes talking about, hey, what did we all learn this week? Things that I learned were about harnesses, and building agents. Like those are the two areas of learnings that I had. You guys are going to laugh at this. I started the week with what is a harness? And basically when we're doing stuff with LLMs, there's an LLM and everything around it that drives the LLM is the harness. So it's context management, it's context window size, it's rules, it's skills, it's all the stuff that controls how the LLM works. And as we work and we discover things that are broken and make our own rules, we're creating our own unique harness.
I wouldn't keep saying that.
Harnesses.
I'm just kidding.
And so I've been definitely working on my own in a couple different ways, like going deep. And that was the thing that I realized. So 4.0, the reason that it showed 75% when I loaded the session in 4.0 was that it was taking everything in the rules directory, including subfolders, and pulling that into the context. So it goes Claude as a folder. Let me show you this. Claude as a folder, MCP. So this is my repo that I was working in. Give me a second. This is the repo I was working in. The Claude folder has all this stuff, including a rules folder, and everything in the rules folder at the root level was pulled into the context window as if it were imported, and everything that was inside subfolders were also pulled in, which was very surprising to Claude and to me, actually, because I didn't expect that. And then everything that was in the memory folder, which I guess I thought was here before, was also pulled in at the root and the subfolder level. And I spent a lot of time working on my memory files. And I went in there and there was so much in the memory files when I started, and I had to get rid of a bunch. And then I consolidated a lot of these and removed all kinds of duplication. I don't know if you remember, but I said that one of the ways that I work is anytime I run into a problem multiple times, it's like an immediate target for coming up with a rule. Like, don't do this again, And what you'll find is that sometimes the rules will overlap over time. And then it makes a lot of sense to go prune them and consolidate, because every token you save is, you're just saving money by doing that.
Yeah, I think like how I've applied it and conceptualized it is the harness framework makes sure that when agents are working, they keep knowing what to do next accurately, because the harness is creating the boundaries. And then there's kind of a secondary layer where the evaluation is done outside of the core agent in the harness. So there's something outside to be like, yes, this was accomplished, versus that same LLM instance kind of assuming that it has accomplished it. So you can kind of set these agents out and they have more understanding and of like task execution specifically.
So one way of thinking about the harnesses is that even for the much bigger context models, 4.6 and 4.7 that have 1 million context, they still do progressively worse as you pull things out of their context as the context grows. So above 100K or 120K or 150K, then the 1 million context models start getting dumber, just like the smaller models or the smaller context models. And so it can be useful to manage the context window once you get above even 15% of your context window for these massive contexts. You can still go to 200 or 300K for specific tasks, but generally, as soon as it goes above 150K or 100K in context, it starts doing more and more dumb things. So if you spread your conversation across many, many sessions, so effectively you're clearing each time, then you can end up spending a lot less tokens because it does much more clever things with the tokens rather than just doing it all in one window.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
But then you need to think about how you carry the context over into your next session and what you're going to use that for. So effectively, a lot of harness engineering is context engineering. I put some links in the chat from some folks I read a lot of and respect highly for this kind of work. They've done quite a lot of research, and it's quite impressive how you maximize that.
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of their stuff on YouTube. Okay, let's see. So I want to get back here. So what's happening? We built our thingy. Right now, we're deploying our front end. When we see only hosting and a Firebase deploy, that's just the front end files. it's not doing other stuff. So I'm going to go back here, reload the page. I'm going to clear my console so I can watch stuff happening, hopefully. I don't want to see any red or pink. I also want to see my progress bar get, filled in and stuff and junk. Ooh, that's different. It does look like it's getting data, I think, but I'm still not seeing anything.
I would have believed you if it said something else besides 0%.
Yeah, same.
Some comic relief.
Maybe there's a bug in the status bar.
Hard refresh.
Okay, so we know we have a problem, right? And find root cause. So I pasted in the error and I said, find the root cause by looking at several potential issues and then reason through them to find the most likely. Use console logging so we can rubber duck through the logs. Rubber ducking is when you basically go line by line and talk through it literally to a rubber duck, little plastic rubber duck, so that
No,
you.
I think the correct term nowadays is chain of thought.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking, but like they're the same thing.
I
like nose better, so I vote for nose.
When I did my first programming job out for before I went to university, then I had an older programmer, senior programmer called Andy, and I was programming in C at the time, and I'd get stuck, and Andy, I'd ask him to come over, and he'd just ask me to read out the code line by line, and inevitably, 3 minutes in, I'd get to like line 176 and say, "Oh, there's a missing colon, missing colon."
Wow.
And then he'd go back. And so at some point he said, you don't actually need me to come over. You can just have a cardboard cutout model of me. And you explain it to the cardboard cutout model first. And then if he can't help you, but it turned out I never needed to actually ask the real Andy to come over because a cardboard cutout was always good enough. And
Wow.
I call that cardboard cutout Andy, not rubber ducking. And I was shocked when I later found out that it was called rubber ducking and I didn't understand why. I was like, but he looks nothing like a duck. What's going on?
So just so we all know what's going on here, CD means change directory, and Claude Code is being careful and smart by using an absolute directory path. That's why it starts with users, smart detailing, documents, GitHub, SEO community. And then those double ands is what begins what's called a compound command. So it's like, hey, go to this place and do this other thing. I've noticed one of the new things with 4.7 is this thing called auto mode, where in general, it's going to just go. It's not quite the dangerously skip permissions, because it will ask you to approve things when you get to compound commands. For some reason, when there's compound commands and a git command, that's a security issue because they're trying to stop something called bare domain attacks, I think, or bare repo attacks or something like that. So basically, if I go to GitHub, I can't go to GitHub and go over and throw code in someone else's repo or something like that. So what's happening? It's building a package right now, it looks like. It's building the backend, and after it builds it, it'll push this Cloud Run function. So we're about 4 minutes away from being able to actually run it because it just takes a little bit of time for this to get built. And then about agents, I basically had a lot of thought happening after I had the discussion in our room last week. I don't know if you guys remember, but Ben, I think, said, "Hey, Noah, how'd you build your agent?" Do you remember that? And I was all blasé about it. Oh, I just talked to Cloud Code and yeah, we just spun up this thing. Turned out I had built an agent-shaped chat rather than an agent. And the difference is a chat that the user can ask questions and the LLM will answer, which is what I had built. And you get good answers 30% of the time, 40% of the time versus an agent. And the difference is in what they do and how they operate. An agent is, and I'm going to get this wrong, so don't get mad at me and you guys correct me, but just let me finish the thought first. It's like an LLM that has access to tools, and then it knows how to reason through using the tools. And the tools can be, I don't know if they're only JavaScript or TypeScript, but they're tool definitions where you'll say like, hey, this thing can reason through a traffic drop analysis. By making an API call to Google Search Console, it'll request these specific dimensions and metrics and do a thing. And that's a specific tool that it uses. And for my for my unified chat and the application that I'm building, I ended up building out an agent that has, I don't know, 40 tools so it can do stuff in the front end and specifically helping people do analysis on their data. And then my admin agent on the back end can do more things, including creating GitHub issues for Claude to go fix code in my repo. And it can even make edits to a database. And with great power comes great responsibility. So you have to install things called guardrails. And guardrails are, you can only do this thing in a very specific way. You can only have read access to specific tables, or you can only write to specific columns, or you can't delete anything, things like that. And so that's very high level. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, but my agent went from something that was markedly okay to being something where I could say, look at this pipeline run and debug exactly where the issue is. And if you can fix it, fix it. And if not, delegate that as an issue in GitHub. And you'll watch it do this thing where it's like, it looks through Cloudflare worker logs. It looks through Cloudflare workflow logs. It looks through Google Cloud Task Queue logs. It looks through Google Cloud Run logs. It looks through BigQuery. It looks through one database inside Cloudflare called D1. And then, so it's basically tracing the entire pipeline run through its whole thing. And then it's like, oh, it's line 674 of blah, 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 blah. I can't edit the code, but I can make a GitHub issue for that. Do you want me to do that? It's like, holy crap, that's useful. Super, super useful. And
And you wouldn't have gotten that same effect if it was just a chat.
No, because it wouldn't have had the ability to go do any of those searches. It wouldn't have had the tools at its disposal. So basically, if you're building an interface and you want people to be able to use it, and you want them to be able to like interact with your application to do things, think about the problem surfaces that the people will encounter inside the application and where they might want to do analysis. And this leads to something else, which is, hey, we have a front-end application. Everybody talks about these things called MCPs. And in 3 or 4 years, all we're going to be doing is powering agents to do all this stuff. Well, guess what? All these tools that you're building become kind of a gateway into building an MCP. And so I did that too. And I built an MCP for the application that I'm building. And that part was kind of blah. I mean, it wasn't super exciting, but I know long-term it'll have a payoff. And then when you build an MCP, you have questions like, all right, how do I charge for this? Because they're going to be able to do all these things. They're going to be able to build deliverables inside the platform. That uses a lot of tokens. It uses API stuff. They're going to be able to make requests and send a lot of data over the wire. They're going to be able to like do all kinds of things. And so do you meter for this? Do you not? Is it tokens? Is it credits? Is it, so thinking through those issues was really interesting. And yeah, it was just a really, really, really good week. So I'm almost at the point where I'm going to have it done, hopefully over the weekend, in combination with me having to build a deck that I haven't built yet for a talk that I'm going to give in 10 days. And yeah. And they want me to talk about the tool in my deck.
Should we do another session?
What do you mean?
Do you want to meet Monday and like polish up a UI, or like do you need screenshots? Like do you need help, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no. I think I'm okay. I think I'm good. It's yeah, I've been working a lot, just like lots of nights.
No, have you been working? Like, I feel like quote marks should go around every time I say like, well, I recently delivered a completely new project. And with my family, I say like, wow. They're like, Robin, where are you going? It's like, middle of the evening. Yeah. I said like, I've got my team has a lot of questions. Who are you talking about? Who's working at this time of night? It's like, well, my team, they're working through the night, like 24/7. And they're like, oh, you mean like your agent team, your AIs? It's not like your team. I'm like, yeah, but they're like, you got to feed the monster. They're really demanding, right?
Totally. Like having a pretend friend.
So,
yeah,
I've noticed this is
except more friendly.
Is this stuck? So a Cloud Run function should take 2 to 4 minutes. It's taken 8 so far. So, or whatever this is. So that to me is a red light.
Could you use slash, by the way?
What did
this,
I?
This isn't going to, if you see slash PTW,
What is that? Yeah.
then it doesn't interrupt the thing. Because right now it's not going to answer.
Yeah. By the way, is this built?
Okay, you got to it.
Yay. Oh, is that how we roll? Okay, so it's deploying now. It's deploying the image. And what that's going to give us is more visibility. And then as far as this app that I'm building, like basically it's the proof that what we're doing as SEOs is working. And it starts from Search Console and uses AI and helps people build the deliverables that they need to prove that what they're doing works. And it's crazy exciting to me. It's really fun. And I didn't realize until I started thinking more about it that the SEO community and my experience in being in rooms like this and my social audio rooms on Clubhouse, where people talk about churn as like the biggest problem that they face. And it's especially true now from AI. And, you know, when I've had my private conversations with Adrian and with Cheryl Draper and other folks, like my goal with the community is to help people keep their jobs. Like that's like the thing I care about the most. And whether it's like keeping your job or moving into something lateral or even better, going upstream a little bit, like that's what I care about. And this application is that. Like I didn't realize it. I was like, oh, I was trying to attack a big juicy problem that's a painkiller problem and not a vitamin problem. And then when I woke up yesterday morning, I guess I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how these stories like coalesce together, you know, the personal narrative with the product, you know. It's pretty cool. Still deploying. So this should take 2-ish minutes, not the build.
It's kind of like I get impatient when my team are not kind of give me instant gratification, which is their job. But at the same time, like it's kind of miraculous because basically it's doing like 3 days work in 20 minutes. And we're complaining, why is 20 minutes and not 18 minutes, right? It just feels like the human capacity for getting spoiled seems infinite.
I told my little CSS story about how I spent a 6-hour plane ride from JFK to San Diego coding a category page. Beautiful design. And then went and looked at it in the in the Wayback Machine. Ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. So awful. Couldn't even believe it. Claude can do it now in like 30 seconds.
Like I told this story as well before, but we spent at my last startup, we spent kind of 2.5 years building a MapReduce rig. So we do massively parallel processing to do all kinds of presence and reputation management. Nowadays, that's what you get for free in BigQuery. So all of that knowledge is completely worthless. It was kind of fun to do and it was super useful and we built a company out of it and yada, yada, yada. But you can just get that for free for all kinds of applications now. And the same kind of thing is happening all over again with Claude. It just feels, to me, it feels a lot like the start of the web, like the kind of early years when anything was possible and nobody knew how it would turn out. Yeah, it feels kind of magical. But at the same time, it's also kind of weird because all of the things we've been building over the last 20 years, any knowledge that we've accrued in the process, I don't know, 99% of that is becoming devalued. Like, there were experiences, but now they're kind of gone. Now we have to do something new. So the logging is working, but it's not actually working.
Noah, you said you were going to have this all ready for us.
Like I've got a page that needs help. So when can I stick it in this tool? No, I'm kidding. Everything, obviously. No, I'm just kidding.
I've got all these beautiful pens at home and none of them can spell.
Okay, so let's use some critical thinking skills here. We don't know what's happening. We also don't see information coming through. They did all this stuff in the last whatever to add logging to our application. It looks to me like that logging is not happening. All we're seeing are API requests coming through. All we see are API requests. We're not seeing like lots of information coming through. So something is weird. Show log eager evaluation, all levels, including info, which is what they wanted. All levels are checked, including info. So what do we know? We know that we're not seeing info. So I'm inclined to do another hard refresh because why not? I'm inclined to get rid of this thing and get rid of this and do my world famous turn it off and turn it on again move.
Hang on. So we just threw away the 20 minutes. Is that right?
The 20 minutes? What do you mean?
the 20 minutes it was working on whatever it was working on.
No, we didn't throw it away, I don't think. The code's
But
still.
I guess what I meant was kind of like it would be useful if we ran it for as long as it thought it would need to run in order to get some info logs.
Let's look at network things here. Let's see what is coming in the responses. DB error. Okay. Oh, let me explain what I just did, because it was like an instinctual thing where information is available in different places at different times. So the console is just showing me stuff that's getting logged to the console. The network tab is also crazy useful. And basically what is in the network tab is everything that's happening in the application to load images, to load code, to load JavaScript, etc. And there are all these API requests here. Each one of these is status, session, Slack scheduler backend. This is the thing, the traffic diagnosis sync. And if I click on any of them, some of them don't have any response data in it. And one of them just so happened to have data. And I think I got lucky because I think I clicked the first one. I don't know which one I clicked, but it actually had a response. So you can go to headers, and that shows you all the information for where the request was made. And then as you scroll down, you can actually see really useful information in the authorization. Let's say you wanted to use Postman, which is an app for like testing APIs. This is your auth that you can use to then use Postman. The payload is what information got sent. The preview oftentimes looks identical to the response, which in this case, there's no information there. But I'm going to go back here because I think what I just sent them is actually quite useful, because it says this is what they were building in the logging up above. It says the instance ID and then database error. Do not know how to serialize a big int. And I don't remember what the big int stands for. It might be clicks. It might be impressions. It's doing another build. Other stuff that I learned this week is weird infrastructure stuff with Cloudflare. I was trying to build an application that had a dashboard that worked faster than BigQuery to show information. And I wanted to use DuckDB to do that because of several people who told me to try it. And yeah, getting DuckDB in a worker is really hard because of how big DuckDB is. Workers have a size limit of 10, I don't remember, megabytes or gigabytes, and DuckDB has 9.7 of whatever those things are. So you can't like have other dependencies and other things or it'll crash. So I worked through this at length and ended up using a tool called Parquet, which is a decoder and reader, and they have a sister module that is a Parquet writer. So as I'm doing my pipeline, I write Parquet files into Cloudflare and then query those in the front end. I tried it with DuckDB and I couldn't get it to work fast enough, but the Parquet is about 40 to 50% or whatever the number is, like 2 to 3 times faster than BigQuery. And because you're loading the Parquet files into Cloudflare, it is way cheaper. So you're like reading out of R2 and not reading out of BigQuery, which is wild. It is not something long-term that's going to be a good solution, and I'm going to back out of it and find a different way to do it. But it's a good short-term temporary thing that I learned a ton for. I do not know.
I don't want to say I told you so now, but I told you so.
Did you?
Yeah, that's why DuckDB just seems so powerful to me. Is because it's kind of like for a lot of the BigQuery shaped workloads, you can use DuckDB. There are a bunch of other columnar file formats you can use, but Parquet or Parquet. I always think it as Parakeet, but you can use, and they're just fabulously more efficient, orders of magnitude faster and cheaper, and so like and BigQuery is like the primary example of that. But actually, it's kind of the things that make it so powerful and cheap are actually not because it's BigQuery, it's because it's this kind of Parquet format.
Dun, 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 dun. So we clear everything, start sync.
No, isn't that the Death Star song?
Yes. Yeah, we have data.
I was just about to say, there's a reference you probably know.
Okay, so we got a little bit of data. Give us more. Give us more. Did it take pulling query first and then it switched to page, or was it always page? Oh, are we stuck again?
It could
Well,
just take time, right?
yeah, true. So let's go to the network tab and we'll just go, oh, pulling query data. This will be faster. It looks like it's working a little. Don't knock on wood yet. Come on. Okay, so here's some questions. How could we have debugged this smarter? Gone to the network tab faster? And these are the questions that I ask myself every time I run into these time sinks. And I then ask Claude the same question. And if it's possible to be a new way that we work together, I'll create a rule about it. And then I ask it what would be better about that as a rule. How could we generalize it more? How could it be more efficient? Yada, yada.
So one thing that you can do that helps is giving Claude back pressure. I don't know if you know the term. So basically, if you can allow Claude to look at the network and the console tabs itself, for instance, with computer use or something like that, then it can work these things out a lot faster and fix them for you. Because here right now, you're being kind of the, let me watch what's happening, Claude, and then tell you what possibly might be going wrong. And actually, Claude can do that too. And if you have both the generation side and the testing review side, and Claude's doing both of those, then assuming it can see what it needs to see, then often it can just deliver something that works.
What do you use for an MCP for that? What do you like?
I don't, but then mostly I'm doing different kinds of applications. I tried computer use in the past, and it was disastrous, to be honest. But I've seen a bunch of other things that are on my list to test, or on my list to test.
Yeah.
Do you have good ideas about how to do that?
I have ideas that are worth sharing. I don't know if they're good. I guess it's what happened? You can't do that to me, bro. Oh, it's still grabbing, but I didn't click anything, just for clarity. It looked like
We were just assuming it was a user error now.
I would assume that. Okay. It seemed to go through the entire process. I could see the progress bar go through the steps from 17 to 67 and 96% to 99%. Found page data, query data. It then did some different clustering things, and the progress bar went all the way to the end. It came back a little bit, told me at each step it would take a couple minutes, and then it went all the way down to 0 and looks like it's trying to restart the whole process again. Here's my console log. Here's info from the network.
Now, do you use Whisperflow?
Yeah, I do. I love it.
Have you tried the voice command in Claude?
I have, but I couldn't seem to get it to work.
It was disastrous.
I mean, I literally, I just hit the /voice and then I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know.
Oh, I think you got to hit spacebar twice. But like I was dictating to it, as it were, which makes me sound like Hitler, but I was dictating to it and it just didn't, it was just completely garbled. So I just did the same thing with Whisperflow and it's completely flawless. So I was like, well, okay, I'm never going to try that again. DuckDB file was cleared. Yeah. What are you going to say? Money.
Sure. I'm about to show you guys a
L minus 50, baby.
So I don't know what I did here to change the way this is, how my window looks. Next surface, previous.
The clustering Python sidecar needs more than a gig for embedding a full property's worth of queries. It might be that we need to redesign it to make it computationally tractable.
It's just turning the RAM up. We should be fine. Okay, so watch this move. This is really fun. So we're going to open, come on now.
Yeah.
We're going to open, okay. So what I'm trying to do is split my window. And what's strange is that I have this and I don't seem to be able to close it. And usually with this CMux, I have another like, I'm trying to remember where it is. I can do it here, which is fine. I'm just going to paste this command in. And what this is going to do, because I'm a moron, human, by accident, I pasted in like natural text and not a G-Cloud command, which is what's necessary. Oh, tail. Command is blah, 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 blah. Okay, so.
Alpha.
Is beta.
No, it just says G-Cloud logging tail.
This doesn't.
You like CMux, Noah? I tried using it, but it kept on crashing on me.
Hold on one second. Region over structured JSON. I don't care about the structured JSON.
We just spawn 5 sub-nodes.
Pausing command. This command. Blah, 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 blah. Yes. So basically what I want to do is I want to be able to watch things happening up in the cloud at the same time as I'm running it in the browser. So now I'll have 3 different ways of looking at the problem. I'll be able to see it in the console log. I'll be able to see it in the network tab, and I'll be able to see it up in the cloud. That's where all the information is, in those three places. And so this is it. I don't know what it's doing. Oh, this is that loop. It's like looping for data right now. And if we look here, what we're going to see is that this is getting smaller every 3 seconds, or whatever the number is. I'm going to clear it. I'm going to go.
Just by the way, in your in your Claude conversation, you could say, can you spawn a sub-agent to do what you just did? And then Claude, can you spawn a sub-agent to do that? And then Claude, can you keep an eye on that and work out when it goes wrong, and then fix it?
Ooh, I like it. I have not done a sub-agent to tail for the sub-agent to reply back and to bug hunt that way. That's a power move right there. That needs to go in the article. That's actually really sick.
There's wait, I gotta find this. So this article I just posted in the chat, it says, you might notice a pattern in the most successful applications of agents over the last year. This was written in January. Projects that are able to set up structure around the agents itself, provide it with automated feedback on quality and correctness, being able to push them to work on longer horizon tasks. This back pressure helps the agent identify mistakes as it progresses. Models are now good enough that this feedback can keep them aligned to a task for much longer. As an engineer, this means you can increase your leverage by delegating progressively more complex tasks to agents, while increasing trust that when completed, they are already at a satisfactory standard. This is what use this word back pressure a lot, and thinking about how you set up your system so the agent has back pressure means that you don't. But go ahead.
It was a concept taught to me when I first, later on working with product, when I was working with a slow product team, and I was artificially holding back my tickets because they were slow. And as soon as my boss was like, I'm going to teach you about this concept called back pressure. Everything in your secret little list needs to be on their list. And as soon as it got to a couple hundred, we got to have a sit down and get a special reconfiguration of how to get it all done. So yeah, it is very much a strategy.
But I think it's taken on a whole new meaning, in that most of my time I'm setting up getting Claude to write code so that Claude can measure the effectiveness of the code that Claude is writing. And so when I do that, then at some point I can let it go, and it will try and naively do one approach, find that doesn't work, try and do another approach, find that doesn't work. And just all the kind of things that I would have been doing with it, and going we go to the end of the session and find the whole thing was completely pointless. It just discovers those things by itself, and then it can just keep on going around. So a lot of what I'm building now are systems to lots of the things, how things go wrong. I'm building systems to make Claude aware of those before they go wrong. So for instance, hallucination is a common problem of LLMs. So it would be useful if we had something that could stop them from hallucinating for certain narrow use cases. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to do that. Looking good.
I'm not seeing errors.
200s.
And I'm going to go smaller here just so we can get stuff on a single line. I know it's harder for you guys to read, but it'll kind of make it easier to see. So that was the beginning of the run. And then this doesn't look that bad. So it kind of looks like it should be done here when I see that. Oh, womp womp.
Oh.
So we know that's not accurate, but I don't remember if we put in impression thresholds or click thresholds. I mean, we know that, for example, the SEO community or SEO community or SEO Slack community all have both clicks and impressions. But those are, I mean, we have, I don't know, less than 1,000 queries in our bucket, I think. And probably 20 of them have something that's useful.